Sunny ways, my friends. Sunny ways.
You sneaky. You're running as an outsider.
I am an outsider.
We have recently switched to drinking water bottles out of water out of when we have water bottles out of plastic. Away from plastic towards paper, like drink box water bottles. So that
Well, Lottie frickin' God!
You're ready to fight, aren't you? I can feel
I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
So the answer to that is to stop being stupid.
My great pleasure to introduce my husband, the Prime Minister who will make Canada strong. And Canada full!
I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Thank you. It will be an honor to continue to fight for you and to be a champion of your cause as we go forward.
Let's fucking go.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. Welcome to Unhinged Fringe here Wednesday nights. I hope you guys are having a great week so far. What a crazy week it's been. We got a lot to talk about tonight. In fact, we got anti-hate, internet hate speech we got to talk about tonight. We got to talk about digital ID making its way into Canada, how everything is going on down in the country. A lot to talk. Danielle Smith. We got to talk Danielle Smith tonight and how Alberta's about to get completely screwed over. I hope you guys, again, are buckled in for that. We've got Matt joining us shortly. I did want to bring in one thing to show you guys, because, look, you guys always look at the sets behind me. I do have quite the collection amassing, and I know a lot of my Transformers fans and the guys who look at my retro stuff behind me, you'll notice in my books behind me, I've got my Power Glove. I found it in my box as our friend was moving into our basement this week. Our dear friend is moving in to get her feet on the ground. I had to empty some of my boxes. I found all my toys, and with it, one thing being added to the shelf, ladies and gentlemen, that I thought I'd share for my Transformers fanatics, my boxed 40th anniversary Optimus Prime, as you remember him in the 1980s, joining my shelf behind. He'll be going next to my Power Glove on the shelf. So shout out to all my guys who watch the Transformers stuff in the stream. Just thought it'd be fun to show off for you guys. You can also see back here my boxed Soundwave next to Devastator now. So we've got a lot of cool stuff hanging out on the scene in the background. Without further ado, ladies and gents, we're going to get to the roll call, but let's get Matt in here, shall we? It's never a show without Matt. Matt, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel.
I'm just trying not to get arrested for my memes.
Trying to get arrested for memes. We're all in trouble. We're all going to jail. Everybody in the chat probably going to jail. That's hate speech.
I have a negative score. I have a negative score in the social credit system already that hasn't been implemented yet.
Yep, definitely. You haven't even given hate speech, but you've already been reported for hate speech. Guys, let's get in with a roll call while people get into the room tonight, and then we got a lot to get into. I'm not even going to beat around the bush. Let's see if we can get somebody from every province in the country, as well as how many American viewers. I know they join us quite often here in the channel. We've got Kevin joining us from Vegreville. Welcome on in. We've got Lauren coming in from Clearwater, BC. Tote coming in from the Grand Canyon State. Welcome in from, is that Nevada? I think that's Nevada, isn't it? We got Chris joining us from Edmonton. Welcome in. We've got Mike TV Dub coming in from Winnipeg. My favorite mod name, Mike. Mike, shout out to all of our mods. You guys do an amazing job. Carnage Carney, Ingrid, Snatch, Joe, you guys all do a great job. Thank you so much. Marika, everybody who's a mod in this channel. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Keep up the good work. Tina coming in from Georgia. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. Nelson joining us from New Brunswick. We've got Gord coming in from Kotor, Alberta. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Mystical is joining me from my roof. Apparently he's on my roof having a staring contest with the sun. No sun. It's actually pouring rain, thunder, and lightning outside. Absolutely crazy. We've got Carson, El Gringo Grande, coming in from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Carson, welcome in. Cabron, it's good to have you in here. We've got Two Wheels coming in from Airdrie. We've got Son of a Mitch coming in from Nova Scotia. Love that name. Delphine's joining us from Fort Mac. Snow, catch me if you can. I'm in Pasco, Washington tonight. Absolutely gorgeous state. Welcome in. They're a little too liberal for my likings, but gorgeous part of the world. Absolutely love Washington State. David Brewer's coming in from Springfield, Missouri, USA. We got Mike Freedom Honey joining us from Beaver County. You know, funny story, when we went to the meet and greet on Saturday, Mike was actually scheduled to join us on tonight's stream, and I dropped the ball. I didn't get in touch with him. We'll bring him in next week's Wednesday night show. I know him and Matt will have lots to talk about. Keep your eyes peeled. Mike is actually restarting his podcast, and he's got some good stuff on the way. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We've got the Adaptive Maritimer. Hey, Matt, good vibes from Nova Scotia. Welcome in as well. We've got Glenn coming in from rural Saskatchewan. Sherry's joining us from BC. We've got Lee reminding everybody, smash that like button. I'll tell you what, folks, 1,000 likes tonight. We're going to do a giveaway. You don't even have to be a member. How's that work? One merch giveaway tonight for 1,000 likes. So hit that like button down below. Let's see if we can get up there. Becca's joining us from Lloyd. Dan's joining us from Detroit, or maybe not. It says Detroit is Canada. I'm not sure where Dan's joining us from. We've got North Girl Rocks coming in from Burns Lake, BC.
I saw Nunavut in there somewhere.
There is Nunavut. We do have viewers in Nunavut. Jacqueline's joining us from Vancouver Island. Guys, I got to get caught up. I got to get caught up with the chat. I know if Mrs. Fringe was here, she'd be smacking me saying, get on with the show. Get on with it already. And we do need to, because we've got a lot to talk about. I hope you guys, Panina saying gay frogs, they're putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. I can't even do Alex.
I don't like it. It's crap.
We got Raptor Guy coming in. Honorable mentions right off the hop. Wow, you guys are on fire. $5 super chat. Carney looks like Frollo in Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame in this picture, and he's about to sing Hellfire. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the super chat. Another $5 super chat from Raptor Guy. In other news, former band YouTube, Arena Nation, was able to get his ban lifted, and he is back. He might be a good guest for the channel sometime. I'll look into it. If he's been banned, maybe he's not a good guest for the channel. Well, I don't need to get banned. I'll take a look at it. Thank you for the suggestion. And Raptor Guy with another $5 super chat. By the way, Alice Cooper did perform "Feed My Frankenstein" when I saw him on Monday. That's awesome. Oh my God, that's awesome. I think that's great. Thank you for updating me, and thank you for the super chats. You're amazing. Arctic Ian becoming a new member of the Patriots Club. Welcome in. Thank you so much. Tara with a $5 super chat. Tara the Canadian from Grey County, Ontario. I appreciate that. You guys are amazing. Everybody's in a good mood, even though the country's falling apart. And again, we're going to get into that. There's a lot to say. I try to keep things as positive as we can, folks. The positive thing is you're with good company here in the Fringe tonight. I'm going to jump right into it. We're going to lead in with Danielle Smith. Now, I told you guys, and if you were around on the channel, if anybody wants to say, hey, he did say this, didn't I? That throughout this whole negotiation with Mark Carney, when it came up to the 6 months, when we talked about the 6-month deadline, now November 16th deadline, that Mark Carney would come forward and say, I'm going to offer a singular pipeline project. It'll be a little breadcrumb, and Danielle will try to play it off as if she's done something great for Albertans. Now, a singular pipeline project has been offered in the province. Danielle was very eager to announce it today. It's going to be going out to the West Coast in BC, apparently. I got some bad news on that one. But this is kind of the problem, is that Albertans aren't stupid. Albertans wanted hundreds of projects on the go. It doesn't have to be pipelines, but there's hundreds of projects scheduled to get moving. We can't get it going without the emissions cap removed. We can't get anything moving without the oil tanker ban being removed. And the government has already doubled down by refusing, in a vote brought on by the Conservatives, to remove the emissions cap. So Danielle, again, she's doing what she has to do as premier. I'm not crapping on Danielle here. She's doing what she has to do as premier and come out and say, look, we got a pipeline. Something's happening. We're going to get something going on. Yeah, I saw it in the chat there. Sarah saying, woo frickin' who. And that's kind of the problem, is that this is one project at a time when Alberta has the highest unemployment in the country. The biggest problem, and I'm going to bring this in before I turn it over to Matt, David Eby, Premier of British Columbia. Juno News had reported, with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith set to announce what she says are steps forward on a new pipeline to the West Coast, BC NDP Premier today rejected any proposal outright. Quote, "It's not just a threat to our pristine coast and so many British Columbians, including myself, value, but it is a direct economic threat to the kind of economy we're trying to build in the country here. There is no project, there's no bridge to cross unless the Albertan government and the federal Canadian government are committing billions of taxpayer dollars to build this project. And if that is the plan, then they should be transparent about it. Don't mistake my politeness for weakness on protecting our economy and our coast." So no matter what happens here, folks, BC is going to get in the way. So as Danielle announces this project, it's just going to be more red tape, more issues with the government. Let's play, just for context, what he actually said.
A range of answers that indicate you might be willing to entertain an oil pipeline. So let me try again. You keep saying this is not a real project, but Alberta is filing an application. Will BC oppose that application, or will it be leaving that up to First Nations to oppose?
Well, Justine, I disagree with the premise of your question. We have supported the tanker ban from the very beginning because it is foundational to our ability to get some major projects done, including at the Port of Prince Rupert, including major export projects like LNG Canada that have facilitated a 4% increase in Canadian GDP. And to put that tanker ban at threat, it's not just a threat to our pristine coast that so many British Columbians, including myself, value, but it is a direct economic threat to the kind of economy that we're trying to build in the country here. And so when I've said, let's cross that bridge when we come to it, we'll see what the Premier comes up with. I'm being polite. I am being polite. There is no project. There is no bridge to cross unless the Albertan government and the federal Canadian government are committing billions of taxpayer dollars to build this project. And if that is the plan, then they should be transparent about it. Don't mistake my politeness for weakness on protecting our economy and our coast. Now, I hope that clears things up, but let's cross that bridge once she's got a proponent in the money.
So I love how he comes in. I am being polite. I'm being polite, ladies and gentlemen. Don't mistake my kindness.
Is that hate speech? I say that I hate that guy.
Is it hate speech? I don't know. Matt, what's your take on this so far? Like, I mean, what do you think is gonna, like? Do you think we're gonna see this pipeline, or is it just gonna be more politics tying things up?
That guy's gonna, even if everybody in the whole country wants to push it through, that guy's gonna tie it up forever in litigations, appeals, whatever, Indigenous consultations. And then first, I'd like to go back about 6 months when that guy got elected. They were doing an investigation into possible voter fraud, and I was actually looking it up while we were playing that video. And all I can find is that the Conservatives called for an election, and there was. Is my mic too quiet? That's weird. I'll put it a little closer to my face. They were calling for an investigation into how he got elected, and there were some irregularities, and that is the last I ever heard of it. Like, he won by like almost nothing. It was like 51.8% or something like that.
Yeah, so they did find that to my knowledge, there was questionable voting practices in play in certain aspects of Vancouver. I believe it was in either Surrey or Delta. And they were looking into it, but just like everything else with the government, you know, you look at SDTC, you look at Dalian, you look at the Arrive scam nonsense.
We have investigated ourselves and found ourselves to be innocent of any wrongdoing.
Well, not even that. I mean, the Parliament was prorogued because Trudeau refused to hand over documents on SDTC, and then magically there's an election and everybody goes back to work. Hello, whatever happened to the 11 traders that are working, that we know of, that are working in the House of Commons? What happened to SDTC? I thought they had to hand over these documents before we go back to work. Everybody's back to work. It's the same thing in BC. Well, we're going to mention it. We're just not going to do anything about it. Right. And that's kind of the biggest part with politics. That's part of the problem.
And then I like his other line in there about this is a direct threat to the economy we're trying to build in this country. Yes, oil and gas is a direct threat to your communist ideals of a fully tied in, electric, monitored, and controlled society. It very much is.
You know what?
At least, loud.
Well, there's a silver lining to this. And I'm going to bring that in, folks. You heard it here, hopefully first, if you haven't yet. I was supposed to have Jeff Rath on the show. I announced on today's video we'll be having Jeff Rath on the channel. We're going to be talking about things. He's tied up busy. I'm not sure when we're going to get him on here. I had some juicy information that I knew of over the weekend. I'm going to share it with you now because they've started to talk about it. And even though we had things scheduled, unfortunately it didn't work out. But let's bring in the old screen again. If you guys didn't know, Jeff Rath, as well as Dr. Modry and Mitch Sylvester, they just got back from a trip. They were gone over the weekend. They left Canada. They took a little trip down to Washington to meet with the Trump administration. Now, as Donald Trump is talking about 51st state, he's brought it up again. He's been talking about it. Jeff Rath, as well as the other leaders of Alberta Prosperity, have gone down to Washington, D.C. to talk about what exactly is going to happen with Alberta. What cards are on the table? Now, Western Standard put out an article. I just want to go over what was mentioned within the Western Standard. I really wanted to talk about this. I've known about this since Saturday. Couldn't say anything because they don't want the beans spilled until they get home. Jeff Rath, Mitch Sylvester, and Dennis Modry, Dr. Dennis Modry, of the Alberta Prosperity Project were in Washington, D.C. on Monday to discuss Alberta independence with cabinet-level U.S. officials. This was the second round of talks the APP has had with the members of the Trump administration after a first meeting took place back in April. Quote, we wanted to talk further about things that Albertans would be interested in knowing from a due diligence perspective with regard to independence, said Jeffrey Rath. According to Rath, this week's meeting marked a significant step forward. We had a very productive meeting at a very senior level with the Trump administration. One of the people that was in our meeting left to go directly to the Oval Office, he said, stating that the level of the meeting is an indication of the strong support from the United States for Alberta independence. He declined to disclose which officials attended, saying that both parties had agreed to confidentiality. I do know, based on confidentiality, I can't give those, but I do know some of the people that were in that meeting. But again, unfortunately, if they're not going to disclose it here, I'm not going to disclose it either. But it's big. It's big. Rath said the discussions touched on what Alberta would seek from the U.S. if independence was achieved. We're very interested, quote, in U.S. recognition of Alberta as an independent nation or state immediately upon the result of a successful referendum, he explained. He added that the free trade was central to the meeting, saying that the principles of reciprocity in the context of a future, in the context of a future Alberta-U.S. trade agreement and the possibility of establishing a common market between the United States and Alberta would see zero tariffs on all goods and services on both sides of the border was openly discussed. They were very interested in the process and where we were in terms of moving things forward, Rath said, of his American counterparts. As for whether Alberta could ever become the 51st state, Rath pushed back on the speculation. Everybody's always worried that somehow we're talking about Alberta becoming a state. That discussion came up and we all laughed, he said. It's extremely unlikely, Rath continued, pointing out to the fact that Democrats would demand Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. also be admitted as states to the Union in exchange, emphasizing the difficult process of achieving statehood. We would need to have our own constitution, which would have to be approved by Congress of the U.S. Senate, he said. There's no magic fairy wand. It's completely unrealistic, not likely to happen within the next 20 years. Support for independence has grown in recent months, along with the province's frustration with Ottawa. A recent provincial poll indicates that the UCP has 43% of voter support in the province. However, some critics are skeptical. Adrienne Davidson, assistant professor of political science at McMaster University, told the National Post that she hadn't seen anything compelling yet to suggest the referendum question, were it to move forward, would get anywhere near the support that would be required to actually move it to the next stage of the process. Rath maintains that support is growing and says that 75% of UCP members are on board with independence. Every week that goes by, Carney does something else to completely screw Alberta over, he said, citing the fact that Ottawa recently decided to maintain the emissions cap. Support for independence is growing, and the Americans see that too. From a standpoint of economic development, who the hell is going to invest in energy projects in Alberta when they could be shut in by the federal government because they're over the emissions cap? It's the same thing we're talking about with British Columbia here, right? So it's only going to grow frustration. Premier Danielle Smith consistently downplayed independence during her recent series of Alberta Next panels across the province, repeatedly stating she wants, quote, a stronger and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. She reiterated this on Tuesday, telling the National Post, quote, my responsibility is to try to make sure that Alberta has a new and renewed relationship with Ottawa. And as part of what Alberta Next panel discussion is about, it is also important to identify the ways in which we may take on more responsibilities as we become stronger as an economy and have a stronger population. Rath, however, accused her of ignoring her base. Quote, my question for Danielle is, given that now over 75% of her members favor independence, how the hell does she hold on to her leadership when she's thwarting the wishes of 75% of her party members, he said. She's just governing as a dictator and does not care that a supermajority of her party disagrees with her policy position of working for a united Canada. So I wouldn't say she's governing as a dictator. But I do think that she's ignoring a very large portion of her base. I do think that it's going to smack her in the face very soon because, again, that November 16th deadline is coming up. And I know that was a long article, folks, and I haven't let Matt get in yet, but it was important to point all that out because while we're getting this singular pipeline project, and again, just as I said, mark my words, we're only going to get a single project given to us. If Danielle tries to play off by November 16 that, hey, we're working together. We're getting deals done, folks. We got this pipeline. You know that it's all bupkis at that point. It's a no-go with Danielle. If she's going to make excuses after the emissions cap was voted down on to remove, we're going to move forward. Alberta is going to move forward with independence. And you can see here that there's a clear positive response from America that we would have their support should we reach that referendum vote. I'm going to get some honorable mentions in because they've been coming in and I don't want anybody feeling ignored. And then Matt, I'm going to get your take. Badass Custom Coatings with a $10 super chat, leaving liberal Gimli, Manitoba and moving to Cochrane, Alberta and bringing 3 businesses to Calgary. Be there on the 15th and living in a province with like-minded people. So happy to hear that. Welcome to Alberta. Congratulations. You'll do very well here. Thank you for the $10 super chat.
Let's have a beer before you go.
Absolutely. Adrian Van Veen with a $20 super chat. 10 independent trading republics birthed by the failure of criminal narco state owned by Mark's commie. I think that's where we're headed. Thank you so much. Matt, what's your take after hearing that, after hearing what Jeff Rath says, and again, 75% of UCP backing this, after Mark Carney's, the things we still have to get into about Mark Carney. I mean, what do you think
by chats last week?
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think the path forward is for Alberta here?
I honestly, you know your province a lot better than I do. You know Danielle Smith directly. I don't know what her play is here because if she doesn't start acting in the manner that her base wants her to, they're going to reject her. And then there's a chance that you guys could lose the next election. And then you're the NDP are in charge of your province. And we'll get my first one in today. That means you're all absolutely fucked. And you got to remember too, every week that goes by, they're funneling more people into your province, like from the east, from the far east. You know what I'm saying?
The benefit if we get a referendum vote, they do vote, but the benefit of a referendum vote is they must be a citizen of Alberta with an Alberta address for 2 years before they're allowed to participate in that vote.
Yes.
So if we do get a referendum vote, yes, that won't count.
They can vote instantly in the provincial election.
Yes, they can, and that's going to be dangerous.
So that's the danger,
and that
is the NDP
and that's
taking
again
control
why
the next election.
Yes, and that's why I keep saying that it's important and imperative that we get the vote before then. John's got a similar take. Danielle Smith wants to keep Alberta in Canada. You guys don't want to. She doesn't align with your guys. You guys, she's selling out, in my opinion. So the way I see that, and I do agree with that. I do agree with that take. But the reason that I'll push back a little is in good faith, because, and again, I have a bias because I have spoken with Danielle behind the scenes. I do talk to her outside of business, off the record. And I personally feel that sometimes her personal views may align with what Albertans truly want. Whether she expresses that at her job or not, or another situation. So I would give her the benefit of the doubt until the 16th of November before saying, okay, it's time we go our own way. But I do have concerns, that being said, that just as I said earlier, Danielle's going to come out and try to buy more time by saying, hey, look, Mark gave us a pipeline. We're making progress, everybody. Let's just be patient a little bit longer. One project isn't going to save Alberta, especially again when you have the emissions cap, the tanker ban, EB saying he's going to push back on it, red tape. This is going to be TMX all over again, pre the government buying it just to shut it down. So,
well, that's another thing. If she comes out and says, look, see, we got a pipeline. They're giving us a pipeline. Yeah, but the guy whose permission you need to go right through his yard flat out said, no, fuck you. You aren't getting it.
Mm-hmm. Mike TV Dub says it's not enough. It isn't. One project. And again, as I said, what was it, 5-6 weeks ago? I guarantee you they're going to come back and say, oh, look, here's some breadcrumbs for you. We made a deal. That's not a deal. That's not what Albertans are looking for. One of the Alberta Next panels, and we showed that on a video here, where the guy said, Ottawa's giving an inch, Albertans want a mile. And he said to Danielle, you need to get on board with what we're doing here because we'd like you to stick around. The best quote I've ever heard. To which Danielle said, look, we're still trying to, I have to do my job. I have to do what it takes to keep things ground and solid. But again, the biggest problem she now has, and it's no criticism to Danielle, while it might be a minor criticism, is she made the mistake of putting a date on things. She could have pulled a Doug Ford. I'm grateful she didn't, but she could have pulled a Doug Ford and said, hey, look, we're trying to work with Mark. We're trying to get things going. We're trying to keep Canada strong. She could have just kept giving the excuses and passed the buck for as long as she wanted, but she actually went and put a date on things, a D-Day.
And that is fine.
It's fine, but
as long as she actually does shit once it happens.
But that's the thing, is she has to realize that come November 17th, she either has to say something or lose her job. That's kind of the predicament. And the biggest problem, folks, if Alberta stays in Canada, is you kind of want somebody like Danielle, whether you like her or hate her, in charge versus Naheed Nenshi. Like, you don't want the NDP getting in. We don't want that ever again. And it kind of sucks because it goes back to what I was saying on previous streams, that you don't want to vote for these people just because they're conservative, but they're not as good, because you don't want the opponent getting in. It's no way to run our politics. But
it has been.
It's so imperative.
200 years.
But that's the way it's been. So even Reg, talk is cheap, but it takes money to buy whiskey. Absolutely.
Unless you just want to rob the liquor mart and walk out with it, because I heard they won't do anything.
Well, you never know. Let's keep the topics moving because we do have to keep a show rolling. I don't want to fall behind this week like we did last week. One thing that somebody asked to bring up earlier, and Matt, you've been following this a little. I want to get into this gay ops going on with the government. Donald Trump recently citing that Antifa is a criminal organization, terrorist organization. He wants to prosecute anybody linked to Antifa. He wants to push back on countries that are funding Antifa. And surprise, surprise, Canada's funding them directly. In fact, some of their employees, as Rebel News have found, are in bed with them. Now, if you think back to Sean Foyt, a lot of his concerts being canceled around Canada, a gentleman threw a smoke bomb in on the show, dressed all in black as an Antifa. Well, Rebel News has found him. I'm going to read this, and then, Matt, you've got a little bit of data on this. Rebel News quoting, "We found him, the alleged smoke bomber, and his shocking links to Antifa inside Canada's military. Mark Carney's Liberal government appears to be employing Antifa extremists inside federal institutions, even within our national defense system." Now, I was going to cover a video on this, but again, news creeps up. I don't want people thinking I'm waiting days or anything to get news out, but we'll talk about it here. Rebel News did what the Montreal police should have done. They launched a reward campaign to identify and track down the thug who thought he could get away with attacking a Christian worship service with incendiary smoke bombs. Christianity is under attack in this country. And while I definitely see myself as a Christian, Canada was founded on Christian principles. We have to keep our values. We have to keep our identity in this country and our heritage. I mean, Donald Trump said it when he was talking in the United Nations. You guys are selling out your heritage. And that's, I got a lot of guff for a tweet I put out this week because people thought I was talking about them. But I said what Canada needs are people not ashamed of their heritage instead of weak traitors. Anybody who stands up and says, well, it's okay for these guys to do this, or, we got to be tolerant of people who come to our country, or you're racist if you claw back on these people. No, the time's come for the strong to stand up and say no more of this. We're losing our Christian values in this country. Rebel goes on to say, not only did we find him, but we uncovered many expose on one of the most alarming national security breaches in recent Canadian history. The alleged smoke bomber is Gabriel Lepage, an employee of the Long Point military base in Montreal, working directly under the Department of National Defense. What a wowzer that is. Is that why he knew how to handle incendiary devices and weapons? What kind of training is being handed out inside Canada's military that could prepare someone to carry out this kind of attack? Again, think about what happened with Charlie Kirk. Our investigation uncovered what appear to be strong ties between Lepage and Antifa radicals, links that make this story even more concerning. Antifa and Canada's Defense Department. Antifa is not just a fringe ideology. It's a dangerous extremist network willing to use violence to advance its agenda. That's why President Trump officially declared them a terrorist organization. But here in Canada, Mark Carney's Liberal government appears to be employing Antifa extremists inside federal institutions, even within our national defense system, and worse, shielding them from accountability. So the biggest problem here, folks, is that when Donald Trump talks about them being a terrorist organization, what does that say for Canada? Is Canada now a terrorist organization? Are we going to get the boots put to us even harder now? And I'm not just talking tariffs. Like, we're talking about full-blown civil war here. This could be a huge problem. If the government is directly funding this kind of behavior to destroy Christianity in our country, forget the Hamas holes and all those guys coming in, waving their flags. The government says there's special rules for them. You can't talk bad about them. It's hate speech. But government employees dressed in black garb are allowed to go into our Christian-run churches and disrupt and put everybody at risk. Matt, what's your take? You've got more info on this.
So let me pull up this screen here. For years, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, government NGO, has been claiming neo-Nazis have been flooding the Canadian Armed Forces to train in firearms and explosives. But a new report from Rebel News reveals that the terror group Antifa has cells operating within the CAF's ranks.
And most disconcertingly of all, let's ask ourselves, where does someone have easiest access to firearms and training? The startling easy answer is the Canadian military. According to a number of reports over the last year, neo-Nazis have eyed the Canadian military as a means to an end. Indeed, following a series on right-wing extremism in the Toronto Star, Canadian military authorities have admitted that neo-Nazis are indeed in uniform. Amazingly, even following a media expose uncovering the fact that a Canadian reservist was a member of the right-wing terrorist group that I mentioned earlier, Atomwaffen, there remains, to the best of our knowledge, no specific plans to address the entry of neo-Nazi terrorists into the Canadian Armed Forces, where they will be finally trained on firearms.
So this is from before. This guy's saying that there are Nazis infiltrating, but they found one dude in the reserves. But this article down here says they're finding multiple Antifa cells operating within the CAF. And I mean, it's been a thing for a long time. Various people for various ends, they go to the military to get training and, experience in these matters. But like, they point out one thing where they found one dude in the military while ignoring the other side. You know what I mean? And Donald Trump has, designated Antifa a terrorist organization. And I mean, Canada has not followed suit yet, but I don't have it saved. But I saw a video earlier where one of those TikTokers who likes to do liberal things said, "I am Antifa, I am Hamas, I am Hezbollah." And it's
I saw that.
All three of those are designated terrorist organizations, and you just admitted on video that you are them. So I don't know what we're doing here, but.
So Derek says it's unlikely Antifa's in the military. Derek, we're showing it here real time. They found them in there. They're in there. Rebel News would not be allowed to. Yeah, they wouldn't be allowed to publish that they have found Antifa within Canadian Armed Forces. They're here. It's in there. So my question now is, it's not just alarming that this is in Canada, but with Donald Trump now calling them a terrorist outfit and claiming them to be, and saying that they're going to prosecute them, what does that mean for Canada and the relationship with the United States? We've already tarnished it with Mark Carney and his terrible negotiation skills. But what does this do for Canadians? And keep in mind, I saw it in the chat earlier. People said, nobody in here voted for Mark Carney. What does this mean for those of us who don't want any part of this, who want to stand behind the United States? It makes all Canadians look terrible.
Yeah, it's not good. But there have always been people for various reasons who go into the military to learn how to do those types of things, and this is just another instance. But like, I would like to point out, by the way, that the Winnipeg Antifa Facebook, it's still active. Mm-hmm. It's still there. It's not banned. It's not shut down.
You'll get banned for saying that men can't go in women's bathrooms on Facebook, but you can still be an Antifa, right? Even though. So Philip's saying here, we're aiding and abetting terrorist organizations. This means the U.S. can place economic sanctions on Canada.
I mean,
absolutely.
They already did, but they can do more.
They can do a lot more. They can cripple us, essentially. Canada's on its last legs. You heard what the parliamentary budget officer is saying about Mark Carney's budget and how he's trying to divide it into two, so that he essentially can say, oh, it's not as bad as everybody thinks it is, but one's just operating costs and another one was, I forget, federal costs or something like that. But it's a way of dividing up the budget so that it doesn't look nearly as large as it is. Thankfully, today the Bloc has already said that they're not looking to approve of Mark Carney's budget. They'll vote non-confidence on it by the time, unless of course the Liberals, if this is a negotiation tactic to get them in and offer them something, who knows? But if the Bloc refuses the budget, it is, and that's why I'm not really, because look, there's already rumor going around through contacts I know on Parliament Hill that we could see an election as early as spring. But if a budget is presented in November and the Bloc doesn't vote it through and the Conservatives stand against it as well, that's enough to trigger a non-confidence vote and go back to the polls. The problem is, it doesn't matter how many times we go back to the polls. It's Toronto. It's those per capita regions of woke retards that vote in Mark Carney with their elbows up every single time saying, oh, it's all about Donald Trump. It blows my mind how we live in a country where a bunch of sheep were convinced that 10 years of inflation, of bad judgment on economics, on poor policy, was caused by 3 months of Trump presidency. I don't get it. I don't get how people are stupid enough to buy into that.
That bait and switch still boggles my mind. Like, yeah, Trudeau resigned, big deal, and now Carney's in charge, but almost all of the cabinet is still the same. Like, the people who made the policies that made you hate Trudeau are still there making policies. Like, people just don't, either they don't understand how politics work, or I don't know.
This says, I hope you're going to bring up the repetitive word for word question time questions that go nowhere. It's a joke. So I still have Michelle Ferreri scheduled to come on the channel. We're going to talk about that because I told her maybe you can come on and shed some light onto this, because it's part of the reason people get so frustrated when they're watching. It should be called answer period, not question period. It's nothing more than banter, and it is the same things over and over. Canadians deserve answers when it's our money cashing the checks, right? It's my dollars, your dollars. We deserve fair representation. And if these pigs at a trough aren't going to hold themselves liable for what they're spending, yeah, you're damn rights we want answers. We've got Snow with a $2 super chat. Extortion equals the Black Opera. When the block opens its mouth. Yeah, and I get that's what we're going to be looking at. Again, that's why, you know what, I was almost going to put out a video, but I could already see people saying clickbait, because I would love for us to head back to the polls. But you know what, most of the reason I didn't put that out, folks, I don't want to give people false hope that, you know, the block is 100% standing against the budget. Until we see a non-confidence motion on the budget go through, I'm not going to say anything. So at least rest assured on this channel, you won't see any videos saying we're headed back to the polls unless it's official. I'd
be a little worried that going back to another election would just get worse. Like, they would get an even better majority because people are just leaning even further into the insanity.
Absolutely. Sharon saying, I want to see results, not just banter. We all do. We all do.
There are no rules or laws anywhere that say they have to do things, though. That's the problem. Like, they say, I will do this, I will do that.
Yes.
And if they don't, there is no law that holds them accountable for that. It's just simply we have to yell at them and maybe vote them out as soon as we can.
Yeah.
There's no penalty.
This is all part of, again, when we talk about this Antifa cells, when we talk about, again, here's your little pipeline, Alberta, and then, magically BC is going to go against it. You guys remember Mark Carney saying all provinces had to be on board for these projects? All Indigenous had to be consulted before these projects went through. This is all part of that managed decline that we talk about. It's all designed in place for guys like Mark Carney to come in, pad their pockets, get what they need to, and get out of here. And we're going to see more of that as we head into November when he's supposed to announce his budget. Bradley with a $2 super chat. It's time to effing go, Alberta independence. That's the last bastion of hope. Thank you for the super chat. And it's funny because
if Alberta actually does vote and go out, that will be the pushing point for Saskatchewan to almost immediately follow. I guarantee it.
So I was talking to a few people at Saturday's meet and greet, and boy, what a great time that was. But a lot of people were asking me, what's your thoughts on independence? What do you think is going to happen? And I said, when we talked to Preston Manning on the channel, and when we spoke about the roadmap for Alberta independence, he says, look, I think if anything, I think Quebec's going to go first. I don't think it'll be Alberta. I think you'll see Quebec go first, and then other provinces would follow suit. It's as you said. I think that if Alberta goes, it's going to start a domino effect. Whether it's us or Quebec who get there first, it's going to start a domino effect where Saskatchewan would say, okay, it's time to go, time to get up and kick up some dust. You may see parts of Manitoba start to cry out for the same thing. BC, definitely the interior, all the way up to Vancouver, would want to join in. They don't want to be Canada up to like Ontario, part of Manitoba, and then independent nation, and then Canada over in BC. It's just not going to work.
Another interesting thing, if Quebec does go first, because we talk a lot about Toronto and Mississauga and Mega City 1 there, where it's all one big city and that little thing. But also a lot of the votes that the Liberals are getting are in places like Montreal and Quebec City and other big cities.
Newfoundland.
They're basically in that same region there. So if Quebec went, it would very much change the federal election landscape instantly.
Yes. Yeah. The only problem with Quebec when they leave is that I don't know if you remember back in the 90s, you got Lucien Bouchard, when he used to constantly say, we're leaving, but we still want money. We still want, I think at that point they were still asking for transfer payments. They were still asking for Canadian money because they were technically in between two parts of Canada at that point. And the Canadian government was telling them at that time, no, if you leave, you leave. You're on your own. Like it's not like moving out of mom and dad's house, but you still get a rent check every month from us. You're on your own. And they had their referendum and it didn't go through, but I think we could see more of those shenanigans as time goes on, where guys come in and say, well, we want to separate, we want to have our own country maybe, but we still want that money. It's nice money, we like it. I don't know where it's going to go, but I definitely think Alberta, it's the last bastion of freedom in this country. I've seen so many people. We had the super chat earlier saying I'm coming out to Cochrane, bringing my businesses here. One of our viewers, Megan, she's been to all of my meet and greets. I didn't think she was going to show up on Saturday. She showed up Saturday for our meet and greet. She comes all the way out from Ontario to see us. She's actually relocated to Alberta. She's working on a ranch right now, and she absolutely loves it and says, I'm moving here. That's it. Alberta's just different, she says, than the rest of the bloody country. And it's funny because a lot of people always say, oh, Albertans have their heads up their butts. They're so conceited. They think they know everything. They think they're better than everybody else. But people are genuinely happier here because we don't bend into that woke nonsense that other provinces are known to have. And we don't have any tax on the province. So, I mean, a lot of people are happier. I do think...
Not your teachers.
Not our teachers. God, don't even get me started on that. I triggered some people yesterday with that. I got some honorable mentions that came in we got to get to. Where are we here? Raptor Guy, $5 super chat. As a Scarborough resident, I'd like a referendum to separate from Toronto to get away from Olivia Chow.
You don't get to separate from Olivia Chow. No, you don't get to separate.
You want a referendum? You want to get away from me? Olivia Chow? It don't happen that way. I'm here to talk about tacos. God, did you ever see that video? Olivia Chow talking about tacos? It was terrible. Snow with a $5 super chat. Sorry, I didn't get to that meet and greet. Some reason I wasn't around for last stream. I had a family problem, nothing to worry about, just time consuming. No worries, Snow. We're going to do more at some point. Probably not in the near future. There's been some issues that I can't get into, but security is definitely an issue. We won't be doing any meet and greets anytime soon.
When I come out there next month, let's do one. I'll be security.
There, we'll figure something out. Goko Donnie with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. They imported all of the new voters they need in the right places to guarantee the majority this time. We need a paradigm shift, and sadly, we're outnumbered by sheeple. NDP could regain party status. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that on Friday. On Friday's stream with Mrs. Fringe. I think there's certain elements in here that may lean more towards conservatives, because I've already said that when people get pushed into a corner, even if they support the Liberals, if they support the NDP, they're not going to be able to vote for those policies anymore because they're turning them broke.
That was like the only good thing about that last election was the absolute destruction of the federal NDP. God, that makes me happy just thinking about it.
And I think you're going to see more of that because the cost of groceries, the cost of living, the cost of everything. People, like, here's the thing. If I was a diehard liberal and I was going to the polls and I was all, oh, my hair's purple and I love the Liberals and I support, men and girls' bathrooms and boys can get periods, but my wallet's empty and I can't buy food, and the Conservatives are the only party that are going to make sure I can afford stuff. Even if I supported the Liberals, I'd have to say, look, I got to vote for what's going to make my life better. And I think we may see some of that. I'll talk about that more on Friday, but Goko Donnie, thank you for the $10 super chat. Rob with a $2 super chat, no message, but thank you for that, Rob. I greatly appreciate it. You got to look at too all the jobs that went out, all the jobs that have gone out the window as of today. There's automotive plants being relocated in Ontario down into the United States. 700 employees were just laid off at Imperial Oil in Alberta. Well, Danielle's announcing a pipeline.
Like, I saw a union message today from I think it was the QP, and they were like, you need to penalize any company that moves and like put charges on them. I'm like, yes, I as a special interest group would also like to use state authority to punish those who affect my special interest.
Mm-hmm. You may not have the chance, and we're going to get into it now because I got to keep the show rolling here, folks. Part of what I think is going to force people to vote the way, even if they don't want to support it. We've talked about Mark Carney and digital ID. I did say on the stream he's locking Canada down. It's already here. And we've shown the patterns, and I'm just gonna introduce this back to what our videos have shown, and then I'm gonna let Matt take the reins on this one. It started in the UK. When you look at Starmer, we just want people in the United Kingdom to show identification so the immigrants aren't working at our jobs. The problem with it, there's my bad Starmer. The problem with it is they're claiming that people in the UK don't have proper identification to prevent migrants from working there. Now, the UK started with hate speech laws. You can get arrested for posting memes, and then they brought in digital ID, just like Canada. Does that sound familiar? Canada is currently working on their hate speech laws. And in this video, again, as I show, Mark Carney making really poor excuses. You can almost just tell it's all a lie. As to why digital ID isn't on the table supposedly in Canada. Well, I got news for you guys. It's already here. Let's take a look at what Mark has to say. And I'm going to stop it here just to back up the point is it's already here.
Keir Starmer's introduced a digital ID card. He wants to make it mandatory as a way of controlling immigration. Is that something Canada might consider?
Well, Paul, one thing I would put in terms of context is the UK is relatively unique in not having other forms of identification. So there's been a long history here not to have ID. In Canadians, we have various forms of ID. We have driver's license. You have social insurance license. Like you have forms of identification. So now, are there merits to having common digital identification for government services, for you say immigration, also for financial services, portability, other aspects? There may be. We don't have current plans for that.
Okay, so let's unravel Mark Carney's lies. First off, he says that the UK doesn't have suitable forms of identification, so they don't have passports. They don't have driver's licenses. They don't have social security numbers.
They don't have firearms licenses, I'll tell you that.
No, they don't. But he's trying to play off that this is the reason they need it. And of course, Starmer came out and said it was because of the immigration. You brought them into the country. You brought them in. You opened the door and brought them in. So it's you created the problem. Now you're going to offer the solution. Well, digital ID will take care of that. All these companies that are taking advantage of under the table immigrants are going to say, holy shit, I can't employ these guys anymore because I have to have digital ID to work in the country. Give me a break.
They're just
it's all
doing what they're doing.
Of course they are. And what Mark Carney says here is, do we need digital ID in Canada for those reasons? No, because we have identification. We have proper identification. He says for things like financial services, banking, yeah, maybe, but he says there's no current plans for that. Well, poo on that, ladies and gentlemen. It's already here. It's already here. Ryan Garrettson says from one of the government of Canada's YouTube channels, but they have no plans for digital ID, according to Carney. Okay. And it'll always be under the guise of making life more convenient and safer. Check this out. He just said for financial services. It's already here. Oh, hold on.
Sometimes applying for government benefits can be a lengthy and complicated process. The Government of Canada's vision is to enable Canadians to use trusted digital identities for quick and easy access to online services. Emily's having a baby soon and is applying for benefits. Today, she has to complete an online application form, then wait 5 to 10 days for an access code. When it arrives in the mail, she will use it to create an account and set up direct deposit. What if she could do all this at once from any device? She'd confirm who she is using her provincial or territorial trusted digital ID, consent to using personal information from her digital ID, and may choose to receive notifications. Once approved, she'd decide how to get paid. That's it. The government's goal is to enable simple, fast, and convenient access to services anytime, anywhere, on any device. We're working with government and the private sector to build the foundation and standards for digital identity across Canada and internationally. The future is closer than you think.
Don't you love those
sure
words?
is.
And look, hashtag Government of Canada Digital ID. And there's no plans for that, folks. There's no plan. Maybe, banking, financial, there it is right there. He doesn't say, well, it's already available for banking and financial. He says, maybe, but it's not in our plans yet. It's on their frickin' YouTube channel. It's out there. And I've been told this has been out there for a while. Government ID? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And they say, and a lot of people don't understand what digital ID means, folks. They say, well, what's so wrong about having that on there? And I know some people have mentioned, why aren't you talking about Danielle Smith's digital ID? It's not. Starmer's digital ID is mandatory in order to get a job in the UK. What Mark Carney is going to bring in is the same thing. It's a social credit system, meaning you have to go where the government tells you can go. You have to say the things that the government approves of, or else they could lock you out of your bank accounts. They can stop you from working. They can get you fired from your job. They could deny you a loan or a mortgage. They could say, we're not going to renew your mortgage at the end of your term. So you're going to be homeless because your social credit score doesn't line up with the government's values. What Danielle Smith is bringing in is a digital wallet for people to put their healthcare information in. And she says people can expand it. But the big catch, folks, it's not mandatory and it's not digital ID. There's a big difference. Big difference. Matt, what's your take on this?
Well, it's all connected, and it's a slow burn. Right now, that digital thing that they're pushing is just so you can access government services, which, by the way, we have a massive welfare state in this country. So many people getting their benefits, their checks, their whatever. And yeah, I'm sure it's very convenient for you to sign up from your phone and get your welfare or your unemployment insurance or your maternity leave or whatever you're doing, because you sure as fuck can't get anybody on the phone if you call the CRA. But that's just the first step. And you think about all of these things, the gun confiscation, the digital ID, the hate speech laws, the electric vehicle mandate. Who controls the electricity in this country?
Mm-hmm.
Every province, the electricity is a crown corporation.
No.
So, I mean,
it's Carnage jumping in about Danielle Smith. No one's forced to do it. No. You can still keep your regular cards in Alberta if you want to. You don't have to sign up for it. She said that this was a matter of convenience. Now, if she ever turns cheek on that and says it's mandatory for you to have a job in Alberta, absolutely, I'll barrel in on that. But for right now, it's nothing more than an app. It's just hey, if you don't want to carry your stuff around with you, you can keep it here, or you can go back to the way you've always done it. This is very different what we're talking about. Very different.
But it's all connected to the same, it's marching all in the same direction. And it's a death by 1,000 cuts. Oh, just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And all those machines they gave out during COVID, all these different places to scan your QR code, they're still sitting there on somebody's shelf. The infrastructure is in place. And then they'll just add this. Okay, you have to scan your digital thing. And then there's app permissions. Once that app is on your phone, what's it going to do in the background while you're using your banking, your Facebook, your Twitter, your YouTube, or whatever, your Amazon? I mean, people talk about how I just turned my location off on my phone. But everywhere you go, your phone has two IDs in it. It has your phone ID, which says this is a Samsung Galaxy, this serial number was made at this factory. And it has your SIM card, which says this is Matt's cell phone. And then everywhere you go, your phone is screaming, here I am, I need cell service and internet. And then everywhere you go, each tower points right at you and goes, hey, there you are. Here's your cell service and your internet. So we're all guilty of it. We're all carrying that thing, and we've all sacrificed every bit of privacy, and we keep doing it, and we keep going deeper so that we can have a phone in our pocket so we can say something mean about Trudeau while we're taking a deuce.
Yeah. So VX Adventure says, I do not agree. It'll all be the same soon enough. But here's the problem. I can't call it out as anything nasty until it actually takes that turn. What Mark Carney is doing here alongside Starmer is the exact same thing. So I'm able to call it out for what it is. The hate speech laws that are coming in, as Matt mentions, the cell phones that we're carrying around, they've got a provision in there that I've covered on a video earlier this week that says Melanie Joly has the right to take away your cellular telecommunications service if they find that you're not suitable to have it in this country. So if you say something mean about Mark Carney that they don't agree with, they can yank away your phones and tell every provider this person can't have a cell phone or access to the internet. Just like freezing the account.
Really time consuming, but I highly recommend everybody go and read Bill C8 in its entirety. I mean, if you do that, you're probably one up on half the people who are going to vote yes on it. There's a lot of scary stuff in there. Like, I was annoyed and angry during the lockdowns. I was annoyed and angry at other certain things, but like the Bill C8 is the first time where I'm actually nervous about this country, like for real.
Yeah. Well, and if that gets passed, which I'm hoping the Senate again turns it away. And I've told everybody, folks, take your partisanship aside. When the bill gets voted on, keep an eye on who agrees with it. If any of the conservatives stand up, they should be voted out. They should not be giving another sit.
That's another
Those
thing. More people
are here to
should pay
silence
attention.
you.
There's nothing more people should pay attention to, because a lot of people watch the news or YouTube channels or the House, and you see what the politicians say, but it's all on the website. You can actually look and see how each person voted on each thing, and often it's very different from what they said on the news. So you should go check that out if you're, just being a little bit of an Alex Jones. You want to learn what's going on.
Vox says, like they were saying when there was no gas car ban, when there was. Absolutely it is. They think that we're stupid. They think people are ill-informed. I mean, Matt was even saying before the show, without channels like this, without access to other forms of media aside from mainstream, how would you get this information? They don't share it online.
That video that I showed earlier, the one from Wiretap Media of the guy talking in the House, and I couldn't find it on Google. I looked up certain things. I can't find them on Google, and then I go to Twitter, and there it is. So like, without Twitter and channels like ours and like the Pleb and people like that, where would you even hear this shit? You're not going to hear it on CBC, CTV, the Free Winnipeg Free Press, or Facebook. Facebook will take it right off.
And that's the biggest problem with C8, is that if channels like this get thrown out the window and told you can't broadcast anymore because it's hate speech, where does that leave Canadians on getting their information? They're screwed. I do have honorable mentions. I've been ignoring them so long. I bet people are mad thinking I'm ignoring them. Nick, $10 super chat. I haven't been on the channel for a while due to working long hours. I think Carney may be one of the devil's minions. I'm not trying to push the Bible, but there is a pattern between the book and in real life. I agree. Thank you.
One of my best friends, Jeff, is a devout believer, and he actually pointed that out to me. He's like, go read the book. There's a lot of parallels going on right now.
Yeah. Carson El Gringo Grande gifting 10 unacceptable Fringe memberships to the Patriots Club. Thank you so much, Carson. You're very generous. Welcome to all 10 of our new members. Toby becoming a new member of the Patriots Club. Thank you so much. Carol with a $5 super chat. We had a great time Saturday night. Always love seeing you and Mrs. Fringe. It was an absolute pleasure to stand and talk with you guys on Saturday. I had a blast. I love meeting our viewers in public. And unfortunately, like I said, that's going to have to come to a stop for the next little while. I can't discuss why. Just trust me, it's bad. But Snow with a $5 super chat. Is there enough totalitarian regimes laws of the pipeline for us to claim asylum yet? Asking for a friend. I don't know. I really don't know, because the problem with a guy like, let's say Donald Trump says, all right, that's it. You guys get to come in. We're gonna open up the doors, Canadians. You guys can come get a lollipop in the United States. You can claim asylum. How do they keep all the Indians out that got fast tracked for citizenship? How do they keep out the riffraff that caused the problems? Unless they were going to say you must be Canadian born, I really don't know how they would do that. But I really wish something could happen. Bradley with a $5 super chat. It's saying something mean about the circus clown Carney now. Yes. Goko Donnie, another $5 super chat. We remember Friday the 13th for very different reasons. If you know, you know. I agree. You guys, the problem And I feel bad because a lot of people are probably waiting. This kind of stuff, it'll drive you nuts. You might even get a fever, ladies and gentlemen. We've all cowbell, guys. You guys have been so patient for that cowbell tonight. I'm so sorry. These
we keep it
discussions
dark
get
around
heated.
here. We got to put some light shit in there sometimes.
We got to put something funny in there sometimes, but it's really what the country's turning into, and it everything we've talked about tonight kind of ties into one. That when you look at EB putting a stop to the pipelines, when you look at Danielle saying, hey, we're trying to work, we're getting a little bit, and Mark Carney saying, digital ID, no digital ID, but here it is anyways. It's all the country crumbling. It's all part of managed decline. If you ever want to know about it, YouTube search it. There's a long video about it, a documentary style video showing how Australia, the UK, Canada, other European nations are all involved in this managed decline. And once you get your eyes open to that, folks, it starts painting a broader picture. And this is one of the reasons I try to push that you can't just keep, as much as I like Pierre Poilievre, you can't keep clinging to that idea that something's going to change. We are out of time as a country. We need to figure out how we make the change, how we claim our cultural identity, how we stop this from happening, because we don't have time for another election. Even if Pierre were to come in his Superman suit and say, I'm going to save the country, we're out of luck, folks. We're out of time.
People own nothing and be happy? No. To quote my dad, shout out, I will own things and be angry.
Absolutely. I have a right as a taxpayer. Carnage Carney, $5 super chat. Derek, I sent you the Paul Harvey speech from 1965. He knew then. Let me look into that. I'll try and bring that up for Friday's show. Thank you for sending me that, Steve. Alberta Gamer, $2 super chat. Cowbell is stuck in my brain now. You are evil. You guys, you got to have the cowbell stuck in your head. You got to. Universal Will, we the people are the answer. Now, keep in mind, because some people think that I seem to tout white supremacy and call for people to go and do all these horrible things. I'm not insinuating violence. I am never saying to carry up arms or do anything violent, but I'm saying that the time for bitching on the internet is kind of over, right? Like when we start showing you just what's going on in the background, what's happening, anytime you start hearing from your elected officials, whether it's municipal, provincial, federal, you need to start asking them, just who the hell do you think you are? And what gives you, you've got some stones coming around my house or calling me or asking for my input, the way you run this country. You know, like I'm not nice about it anymore. I'm certainly not friendly. You know, one of the funnier things, I went for dinner when I was invited to Ottawa back in 2023 and or 2022, sorry, and I sat down for dinner with, no, it was 23, my bad. I sat down for dinner with some of the MPs of the Conservative Party. You know, it's funny because I got to look at the menu. It was some French restaurant it was at Chateau Laurier that's next to Parliament Hill at Fancy Hotel. It was on the river. We're sitting down and there was a joke where, and I'm not going to say who I said it to because I'm not going to drag them into it, but I said, holy crap. Like, and they saw that I was looking at the menu and they said, oh, don't worry about it. We'll pick up the tab. And I said, well, technically that means I'm picking up the tab. And they kind of went, what? I said, you know, taxpayer, government. And they kind of went, oh, you know, they don't like it when you throw that back in their face, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Bradley saying, what's the news with APP? We talked about that earlier in the stream, Bradley. You'll have to go back. I was supposed to have Jeff Rath on the channel, but he's done an article with the Western Standard. So I wanted to get it out of the way so people weren't waiting on it. It is back towards the beginning of the stream. Thank you for the super chat. Where is it? John saying, but it's true. It is true. It is true. It's like, I don't pull any punches. And while I'm still a nice guy about it, or while I try to still be friendly, it's important to remind these government folks, even when you're in a good mood around them, hey, you work for me. I'm your boss. Every single person you see walking on the streets is your boss. And you have to remember that. And then if you're not humbled by it very quickly, you will be humbled when they tell you you're out of a job. And I think people like Danielle are about to find out real quick what the term, fuck around and find out means. Because if she, again, November 17th, if she keeps her mouth shut or tries to defend Mark Carney, she's out of a job. There's nothing she can do right now to defend a united Canada. There's nothing. If she even tries, her job is over. And that's not me saying, well, it's because I don't like her or I don't like her policies. I'm telling you, no Albertan will vote for her. If
73% of your party is for independence and for certain things, and you don't do something to work with that or acknowledge it, you're going to have a problem, straight up.
Yeah. Terry saying, Derek, it seems like Alberta choices are limiting independence or move. Well, it's the problem with the independence or move is that really independence is the only way away from, it's the only direction away from the corruption. It's the only direction away from this globalist agenda that's going to bankrupt everybody and take their lives with them. The federal government's not going to do anything about it. We have unfair seats in the Senate. There's no representation for the West of Canada. And you've got all these stupid people that just believe whatever the idiot box tells them to believe. You've got moronic people that believe whatever the government promises them, that there is no voting our way out of this. And time again, we've seen that in our elections. And when you see guys like Naheed Nenshi show up and start touting, parents aren't mad at the teachers that are striking. Parents are mad at Danielle Smith. I got a video coming up about that tomorrow. No, parents are mad at the teachers. I'm mad at the teachers. To hell with the teachers. Do you guys know they were offered $114,000 a year?
Highest
and they
in Western
turned it
Canada.
down? Highest in Western Canada. And the premier even said more than teachers make in British Columbia. And we all know the cost of living in places like Vancouver. And they turned it down. Why? Because the whole thing's political. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with smearing Danielle Smith. So when you see Nenshi coming out saying that stuff, what you have to realize, folks, is to look at the whole situation fourth dimensionally. You no longer look at it as orange versus blue or red versus blue or left versus right. You have to look at it and say, I'm on a hamster wheel here. And this seems to be the same pattern in all of our elections, whether they're municipal, federal, or provincial. And if I want to get off that hamster wheel, the only way to get away from it, folks, is independence. The only way is to break free and say, you pigs at a trough can sit here and eat out of that trough until your stomachs burst, but it won't be on my dime any longer. We're not having any part of this. We're done. We're securing our future, our head at the table. Independence is the only way forward.
200 years of entrenched central system. It's not going to be upset by voting, and the people who are in power are not going to vote themselves out of a job by fixing it.
Zogloff, guys, no personal promotion inside the stream if somebody's promoting. I saw something about subscribers. Don't self-promote in here, guys.
No, he's talking trash about it, saying we're boring and we should shut up.
Oh, well, then let me fix that for him. I really hate anybody to be bored. So we'll just take care of that. Goko Donnie, $5 super chat. We clearly need a paradigm shift. If a vote comes up, like we all hope it does, can we get it right this time? Asking for all of Canada. You know what? It's a gray Banhammer. It's FAFO, right? No, I'm done being the nice guy. Let's here's the deal. A lot of people think that when I tout Alberta independence, and I know the confusion that a lot of viewers get because they're like, look, you're Albertan, you keep talking about independence, but then you talk about what Canada needs. Until Alberta votes to leave, folks, I'm Canadian. I identify as Albertan ahead of Canadian, but I still love the country that I've grown up in. I lived in Winnipeg for 10 years out of my life. I've been across this great country multiple times. I love the flag that represents this country. In fact, I mentioned it on my stream before that when I read, and I still read my kids How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom, they love the book. But every time I get to that last page that I really poured it all into, when I said, the red and white flag with the red maple leaf, I choke up because it reminds me of the Canada that used to exist. When you saw those trucks going down the highway with the flags, people cheering on overpasses in -20, kids on CB radios saying, please get our freedom back. I remember my daughter turning to me as a young girl asking, Daddy, are the truckers going to get our lives back? What do you say to a kid when you see the biggest fire that's been lit under this country's ass in a long time? When you get that nostalgic feeling of what it means to be a Canadian. That's cultural identity. That is what I keep talking about. We've let that slip away, and the government burned it away when they invoked the Emergencies Act.
Alberta
I
is
want
not
that
leaving Canada. Canada left Alberta a long time ago, and the rest of us too.
Absolutely. They said, screw the West, we'll take the rest. And they have. They've enacted it in full force. Do I want a Canada that works without corruption, without government skimming money out of our pockets, stealing from us, forcing woke ideologies onto us, making our lives more difficult, printing money, jet setting around the world, acting like billionaires on a endless wallet of money? Absolutely, I want things to get better. I want all of that to change and go away. The problem, folks, the reason that I stand behind Alberta independence, the reason I push for it so hard, and the reason I've said all provinces should try and get the hell out, and if you can't, you should be figuring out ways to get to Alberta. Because the only way to get away from it, folks, at this point is independence. They have stacked the system so that no matter what we do, you can't win. They've rigged the game against them. So I say all the people who are common sense should get out west immediately, find a way to do it, get away from this totalitarian government. Let's get ourselves in the life rafts and claim independence. Be a part of a nation that actually cares about itself, that has its own constitution, that protects its people, that we don't have the pigs at a trough. And when all the wokies are left in the East and they're sitting there cheering up and down for rights while the government bleeds them dry and has them living in tents, let them reap what they've sown. Let their dollar go down the toilet. Let them suffer. The people who want a better life should get out west as soon as possible and vote for it. I know they can't technically vote for it, but you know what I mean. Support it. Snow with a $5 super chat. Teachers work about 200 days a year. It's actually 190. And go home every night. I work away from home about 340 days, and they make 20,000 more a year. More. Make it make sense. I wish I could. And again, I triggered somebody the other day when I mentioned that I don't stand behind the teachers, because if they cared about the students, they would have went on strike in the summer. But you know why they don't? Because they don't have any pull in the summer. It doesn't affect anybody. You've got parents scrambling around the province right now. Where am I going to put my kids next week when they all go on strike? 114,000 a year, and they shut it down. They don't have to fight for holidays. They don't have to. They get every summer off, every Christmas with their families, every long weekend, every Thanksgiving, every Easter, every spring break. They go to work and technically work 6 hours a day. And I understand some teachers take work home and things like that, but they're only working 190 days out of the year. The same as our government. Well, actually, they probably work more than the government. But the bottom line is, folks, they're offered more money than any other province in the country. And it's still not enough, because it's about politics. There's a handful of teachers that are saying they're not on board with this strike, but they're afraid about the persecution they'll get if they come forward from the union.
It's
Unions
the power
are
of the union.
cancer.
And unions are very political.
Snow with a $5 super chat. Teachers work. Oh, we got that. Thank you for the super chat. Goko Donnie, $5 super chat. Honk honk. I was in the mix all day through Sudbury and surrounding areas. My horn became cranky. Thank you for that. Thank you for being a true Canadian patriot. It's unions equals cancer equals confirmed. It's watch tomorrow's video, because I really get heated on it, but I actually show the points. Do I support the teachers that don't want the strike, that wish that they could just go back to work? Absolutely, I do. But I triggered somebody who says, you don't understand the value teachers bring. F you, go F yourself. It was over and over and over in the comments. It got filtered out immediately into the held comments, because they got so triggered. And it's just like, okay, so clearly you're either a teacher or you work with the unions. No, I'm not going to feel bad for you. The teachers wanted two things: more teaching aides and more money. The province said, we can give you one of those. They said, nope, we want both. You can't. You've got guys like Naheed Nenshi coming out saying, well, we'd give it to them. Of course you would, because the NDP just spend. They would give them everything and then say, hey, Alberta, guess what? You get to pay for that now. DK with a $2 super chat. I bought a travel trailer and moved to Alberta. Well, welcome to Alberta. Hope you enjoy it here. Bexy with £2. There's somebody in the UK, I'm assuming. The West needs to rise. Support from the UK. Oh, there it is. Thank you. I appreciate that. Love the UK.
Support from us to you in the UK, because
I was just about to say
a couple of years ahead of where we're going to be, and oh my God, I feel bad.
So support to the UK and what you guys have ahead of you with digital ID. Look, my father's from Glasgow, and I've been over there a couple of times. I've been to some Man U games. I went and saw Rangers Celtic in Scotland. Absolutely amazing. The country over there is gorgeous. It's truly a marvel to witness the United Kingdom, and all of its majesty. But their woke policies have turned it to shit. And Canada's about to turn into the same mud puddle. Australia's already on its way there, folks. This stream would be labeled for hate speech. If this was a couple months from now. Yeah. It has gone down the tubes. The benefit, over 2 million people, I think 2.5 now, have signed against digital ID in the UK. Hopefully Starmer gets that one post haste. Something happens to it. Speaking of the Post, Canada Post still on strike. They're dying in real time, folks. Corey Morgan tweeted out the other day, hey, maybe the teachers, if $114,000 a year isn't good enough for them, maybe they can go deliver flyers, because Canada Post isn't. Mad Dog Tradesman, loved seeing you on Saturday. Thank you for the super chat. These criminal governments aren't Canada. We are the taxpayers. God, that's the best sentence ever. True to our land, whether in Canada or Alberta, as Albertans. There you go. God, if I could have summed it up in a comment, that's it right there. Thank you so much for the super chat. Asa Based, $5 super chat. What is your preference? Conservative Party majority versus separation? Majorities are dangerous. You can't say those things in here. Let's put that on a timeout. You can't say those things in the stream. Old Painless, please don't do that. Don't wreck it for everybody in here. Majorities are dangerous because governments can get too used to power. No party in Canada should ever have unlimited power, unchecked power.
Centralized authority is the issue, no matter what color their tie is.
Yeah, and the biggest problem is that if you're asking me now, what I think Canada needs, Alberta needs independence. Other provinces need independence, because even if the Conservatives had a majority government where they could change a lot of things, it would still take time. It would still take a lot of time for those things to be fixed. But at the end of the day, once those things are fixed, folks, we're still unrepresented in the Senate. We're still unrepresented by per capita votes. The electoral system is still broken. They wouldn't fix it. So essentially, you'd have a couple good years of Conservative majority like you did with the Stephen Harper days. And then all of a sudden, a Liberal would get in again and just topple it all, and you'd go right back to square one. So as much as I like Pierre, as much as I like the Conservatives, I'm pro-independence. As a father of three that looks at, can my kids ever afford to get their own place? Can they ever afford to, get a good job and not compete with temporary foreign workers? Can they ever get ahead and have a family, reproduce, carry on Canadian tradition? Independence is the only way forward for them. That's the only light at the end of the tunnel for them. So I'd be very irresponsible as a father if I denied that to my children over nostalgia for a Canada that no longer exists.
We have 200 years of entrenched systems and voting for this and voting for that and adding this law and adding that law and voting for the lesser of two evils each time. This election is too important. We can't do any changes because we have to get this party in because that party screwed us. And then we have to get this party in because that party screwed us. And you can't fix the system with the system as it is because the system is too big.
It's too far gone.
Entrenched. and it's too fixed. You need a mulligan. You got to start from scratch, make a new constitution, and enshrine in law that not only are you going to repeal, like even if the conservatives come in and repeal some of these laws that the liberals have put in or cancel some of the ones they're trying to pass, there's nothing in there that says that the next time the liberals get in, they can't just do it again.
Yeah, fully agree. Terry, if it comes down to it, Derek, you and people like you are welcome here in the United States. Thank you. So I appreciate that. This is why I love Americans. They're so awesome. If I had an easy answer to get to the United States, believe me, I'd be very much considering it. Who knows? Who knows? Again, with APP heading down to the US, talking with the Trump administration, anything's possible, I guess. It'd be wonderful if Trump said, listen, Alberta, you just sign over your oil. We'll send the military in there. We'll put a big wall around Alberta, and the government of Canada will have to come in legally. I'd be on board. I would be on board at this point. I would take anything at this point, especially if the Donald were in charge of my life. I'd be okay with that because he's wonderful. I got to be honest, folks. I love him. He's amazing. We could all use a leader like Trump in Canada. I felt so bad because I put out a video saying I was praising Donald Trump. And I said, wouldn't it be nice if we had a leader like that eventually? But I didn't say in Canada. And a lot of people, that American viewers, thought that I was bashing Donald Trump while I was actually praising him. I felt terrible because I don't want to insult Americans. Tony with a $10 super chat. My 2 cents. November 16th, Danielle Smith will do what APP wants and turn separatist. Just my thoughts to keep her job and continue to what's best for Alberta. I sure hope so. Because when you start talking about the numbers in Alberta, people say, oh, it's political suicide for Danielle to do that. I don't think so. I think the numbers are in the favor that if Danielle, there's enough fence sitters, the silent majority, that if Danielle were to say, okay, you know what, we did what we did. We tried to make something work. I can't stand behind this anymore. Independence is the only way forward. You'd see that percentage go way up, way up. I don't think she'll come out and say independence. I think what she will say is what I've been asking for her to say, which is, Mark Carney, you now have a unity crisis on your hands, and I'm not responsible for what comes next. That's all she has to say. And then we move from there. Nick with a $20 super chat. I'm a Canadian. We stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. And this is that Canada should be and what was when I was a kid. I'm only 23 and still living with my parents. Wow. Thank you for that $20 super chat. I'd like for it to stay that way. I don't know if it's too far gone. Ace of Base, $2 super chat. Do you think you would be a U.S. Vassal state? No. As Jeff Rath said, you won't see it in the next 20 years. I don't think it's possible. But much like Puerto Rico or D.C., I think we could have good ties to the United States. I think we could be our own independent nation with good working relationship with the United States. Kevin with the $5 super chat. The best possible Ottawa government is a conservative and bloc government that actually approves Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Quebec independence. That would be great, Kevin. Again, but the problem is, and it's the same reason why I've said Alberta shouldn't join the United States. We would inherit America's debt by giving up Canada's debt, and eventually a Democrat might come into the White House, and it just screws us again anyways. So it's the same thing. If the Conservative and Bloc have a government, things might be good for a couple of years, but then, the lefties get back with a vengeance and we're stuck back in the situation we're currently in, and everything gets torn apart. You get back to oil being in the toilet and them saying no more oil and gas, energy being shut down. We're going to do wind turbines and huff our farts for energy or whatever they want to do. You never know. It's going to be crazy. Guys, we're creeping up on that hour and a half timeline. I do have videos I got to get cranked out for you tomorrow. There's a lot going on in the background. Again, some things happened around the Fringe yesterday. And I am getting some calls coming in here. Things I got to take care of, unfortunately. So we're going to wrap up the stream. Did we hit? We didn't hit our 1,000 likes. We're at 611. Hopefully Friday we can do a giveaway, folks. Thank you to everybody who hit the thumbs up button. Thank you to everybody who super chatted in tonight's stream. Next week, unfortunately, there is no Wednesday stream. I forgot to tell Matt that before this stream. I have a previous engagement that I do have to be at next Wednesday. So there will be no Unhinged Fringe next Wednesday. However, join me Friday and Friday again next week for our live streams. And we will return 2 weeks from today with Unhinged Fringe for you guys. New topics, new things to discuss. And with that,
who knows what kind of madness could happen in 2 full weeks?
2 full weeks could be dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Ace of Base, $10 super chat. I live in Ontario. It's rough. I want to leave, but we have lots of family here and a baby on the way. Congratulations. It eats at me every day, but I fear that soon we won't have the option to leave and it'll be harder. Hang in there. All I can say is hang in there. I wish you all the best. Congratulations on the baby that's on the way. And guys, look, people saying cowbell to sign off. Let's give you you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for coming out tonight from Matt and myself. Have a great night. We'll see you Friday for Friday Night Fringe, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to check out tomorrow's videos. I know YouTube's been doing some weird stuff lately. Hit in them early. Get your comments in. Thumbs up. Share it out, folks. We'll see you Friday night here on the channel. From Matt and myself, guys, look after yourselves. Don't take life too serious. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.